All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. As I continue to roll through division by division for the upcoming 2024 NFL season, right now I want to take the time out to talk all things in the NFC North. And I really think that this division has the makings of being very exciting for the upcoming year. Last year, we saw two teams from the NFC North get to the playoffs. Both of them went 1-1. Both of these teams could have easily won their second playoff game. I'm talking about both the Packers and the Lions, and done even greater things. But with that said, I'm going to break down and talk about the Minnesota Vikings and how are they going to be able to proceed without rookie quarterback J.J. McCarthy, the Chicago Bears, you name it. But I really think, again, this division has the makings to be extremely exciting this year because it's one of those with the NFC North. This is no longer your father's old school NFC Central Division. I mean, you think for a variety of reasons, okay? The Vikings, they've played indoors now for about 40 years. The Lions have played indoors now for close to 50 years. All right. And there's rumors about the Bears going indoors soon as well. But aside from all of that, it's the passing that is going to be around this division. It's no longer that physical black and blue division, but I still think this division is going to be extremely exciting for the upcoming season. Now, I want to get things started with the Green Bay Packers. And of course, the young Packers are looking to build off of their trip to the divisional round this past January. And like I said, we saw Green Bay take care of business easily in the wild card game against the Dallas Cowboys. To me, they let a golden opportunity slip through their hands in that divisional loss to the San Francisco 49ers. But nonetheless, how are these Packers going to respond from that and take that next step? We know that Jordan Love at quarterback is the future and the present for the Green Bay Packers. You knew that his payday was coming. He just got it. And now they've given him the keys to the franchise. What is he going to do with it? You look at this backfield for the Packers, very strong running game. They already had a strong running game with A.J. Dillon. Okay, now you go out there and bring in former Raiders running back Josh Jacobs. Two powerful runners that now you're going to have the opportunity to keep both of them fresh, and that's going to be the biggest thing. And I think that right there is going to help give this Packers offense balance. You look at these young Packer wide receivers. You've got Romeo Dobbs, you've got Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, and Dontavian Wicks. So much potential in each one of these young fellas, okay? And of course, Christian Watson was an early round pick a couple of years ago. Can he stay healthy? That's also going to be key for this Green Bay offense. Defensively, you got defensive tackle Kenny Clark, who is a stud. And then you have Pro Bowl cornerback Jair Alexander already in place. And then I like what the Packers did because Green Bay was very aggressive this offseason. They went out there and they brought in former New York Giants strong safety Xavier McKinney to this secondary. You also have Keyshawn Nixon back there in that secondary. And I'm rattling off these names. Why? Because it's one of those where in this talented division, and you look at some of the wide receivers that the Packers are going to have to face in this division alone. Roman Dunze, Keenan Allen with Chicago. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams in Detroit, and of course the great Justin Jefferson in Minnesota. You need all the bodies possible to go out there and cover in that secondary. And I think Green Bay has done a solid job in improving an already good secondary heading into the new season. So for Matt LaFleur's club, they were right there last year. They finished a couple of games back of Detroit to win this division. Clearly, they got to the postseason, and I think the Packers are not only going to be in the mix to get back to the playoffs, I think they're also going to make a strong push to win the NFC North this year. Now, for the defending NFC North champions, and of course, it's not that often that we can say that about the Detroit Lions. This is the first time the Lions are entering a season as defending NFC North champs. The last time that the Lions won a division crown, you got to go all the way back to 1993 when the Lions won the then NFC Central. So you're talking about this Lions team. And of course, for the first time in a long time, they are on the tip of a lot of people's tongues. Why? Because we saw this Lions team win the division last year. We saw the Lions team not only win a postseason game, they won two and blew a double digit halftime lead in the NFC Championship game against the San Francisco 49ers. The Lions were as close as you could be in regards to getting to the Super Bowl. They had all of the momentum going for themselves, and then it just evaporated. So, with that said, how do you get it back? That's going to be the big thing for me. Dan Campbell, make no mistake about it, he's done a tremendous job as far as doing a 180 with this franchise, changing the culture there, changing the expectations, getting things turned around, and getting this team believing. Okay. So, Jared Goff, the former first overall pick by the Los Angeles Rams at quarterback, he's found a new home in Detroit. And for the first time, honestly think in his career, and I know that Jared Goff did make a Super Bowl start for the Rams, I really do think that Jared Goff looks comfortable. And this is the most comfortable that I've seen him play quarterback in the National Football League. Aside from Jared Goff, we know that Dan Campbell is going to be committed to running the football. And you can expect another dose of Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery this year. And then the Lions have the speed at the wide receiver position. I talked about Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jamison Williams is now starting to get his sea legs back. Of course, a couple of years back, we saw the Lions use an early round pick on Williams out of Alabama as he was coming off of that knee injury. Now he's starting to get that rhythm back. And I think, the future is so bright for this young man in this offense. And then when you think about Dan Campbell, he made it in the NFL as a tight end. He has himself a quality tight end in Sam Laporta. And not just that, Dan Campbell, throughout his career, for the most part, was a blocking tight end. He was a de facto right tackle. Okay. With that said, he has made it his business to make the Lions more physical. How do you make a team more physical? You improve in the trenches. And this Lions offensive line has gotten a lot better. You look at Penei Sewell up front at tackle. You've got guard Kevin Zeitler, and of course, center Frank Ragnow. And I think that unit right there, those five guys up front, they help to set the tone for this Lions team. For me, defensively, when I look at Detroit, they've got to find a way to put pressure on quarterbacks consistently from somebody not named Aiden Hutchinson. We know what Hutch can do, but they've got to find a way to get it from somebody consistently not named Hutch. They've got a strong group of linebackers with Derek Barnes, Jack Campbell, and Alex and Zalone, excuse me, for that one. And I think this Lions front seven is going to once again be important as they look to help out that back end. But for me, the biggest thing with Detroit, it's going to be a little bit different this season. And the reason why I say it is this: you've been the hunter for so long. Now you're entering the season as the hunted, as the division champs. And first and foremost, in the Lions' history, and the younger generation might not realize this, but the Lions did have, uh, and they do have a long and storied history. It just hasn't shown up in recent decades, but there's a lot of history there. But nonetheless, Detroit has never won the NFC Central or NFC North in consecutive seasons. So that's going to be interesting to see as Dan Campbell looks to continue to change that culture. Will the Lions be up for it? Because Going into last season, it was one of those where maybe the Lions have gotten better. Will they live up to the hype? They exceeded that, but still, there were people who looked at it and said, well, you know what? It's the Lions, and the Lions always lose. But this time around, the Lions are coming into this season after a winning year, after a trip to the NFC Championship game. The expectations have changed. Will they be able to live up to it? We got to wait and see. And speaking of teams that have lofty expectations heading into this season, the Chicago Bears and the expectations for this club have changed quickly. I mean, Chicago had the first overall pick in this past spring's draft. They used it on former USC quarterback Caleb Williams. And as they got a new guy to operate the most important position in football, will things turn around for this Bears franchise? Because you look at it, 39 different starting quarterbacks since Jim McMahon back in 1988. And of course, Jim McMahon was the last and only Bears starting quarterback to help this team win a Super Bowl. It's one of those where, again, you think about it, we're talking about 39 different starting quarterbacks for the Bears in less than 4 decades. That's not a good thing. And then when you push that aside and then you look at the Bears win-loss record over the years, the fact that they don't have that consistency at the quarterback position just gives you an idea as to why. But it's not just about Caleb Williams, because I think the future is bright for this young man in the National Football League. Phenomenal playmaker, phenomenal thrower of the football, and the folks in the Windy City are going to fall in love with him very quick. But it's not just about bringing Caleb Williams in. We saw the Chicago Bears really upgrade their offense this offseason. They acquired Pro Bowl wide receiver Keenan Allen from the Chargers. They also signed former Eagles running back DeAndre Swift. And I think having a solid back that can run and also be a receiver coming out of the backfield and kind of run that fast break, if you will, with Caleb Williams, I think is going to be very important for the Chicago Bears. You bring in, because the Bears did have two first round picks. They used the second one, wide receiver Roman Dunze out of Washington. And it looks like he and Caleb Williams are developing some chemistry very quickly in Chicago. And I think they are going to have a big time impact. What is new offensive coordinator Shane Waldron going to bring to the table for this Chicago squad? We got to wait and see. Now, defensively for the Bears, we saw them pay defensive end Montez Sweat after they acquired him from Washington. Will he be the anchor that Chicago needs him to be on defense? The Bears only had 30 sacks last season, and again, with the quarterbacks in this division, if you're gonna be the Bears and you're gonna take that next step and get to the postseason, it can't just be about your offense. You've got to go out there and put pressure on the opposing quarterback. You got to try to force turnovers to try to go out there and make it happen. So will Montez Sweat and company be able to do that? Linebackers, very solid for the Chicago Bears. You look at Tremaine Edmonds, Jack Sanborn, and TJ Edwards. 22 interceptions from this Bears defense last year. So again, if they can put more pressure on the quarterback, look out, because I think this back seven could be very, very good for Chicago, especially after they picked up former Titans and former Eagles veteran safety Kevin Byard. And then finally, we've got the Minnesota Vikings. And after an injury riddled 2023, things have not gotten started on the right foot for the Vikings here in 2024. Of course, we know after 6 years, Kirk Cousins is no longer the Viking starting quarterback. He left in free agency to sign with the Atlanta Falcons. The Vikings then used a first round pick on former Michigan quarterback JJ McCarthy. And it looked like the Vikings were probably going to start Sam Darnold early and at some point segue to JJ McCarthy, which is fine. But of course, all of those plans have changed now that JJ McCarthy has had surgery on his knee and he is going to miss his rookie campaign. So it's basically going to be in the hands of veteran quarterback Sam Darnold. And like I talked about this last week, This arguably might be Sam Darnold's best opportunity in the National Football League. And I think he has an opportunity to go out there and prove himself. Remember, once upon a time, he was a first round pick in the NFL by the Jets, just walked into a very bad situation. Nonetheless, if you're Sam Darnold, plain and simple, just get the football to Justin Jefferson. Still one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League. And JJ is definitely dynamite. Okay. Little shot of comedy there, if you will. But nonetheless, for the Vikings, what are they going to do at the running back position? That's going to be a big thing. They bring in former Packers running back Aaron Jones as they look to improve a ground game that was 29th last year. And that's one thing. You definitely do not want to be one dimensional in this division. At some point, hopefully, Minnesota can get tight end TJ Hawkinson back. He tore his ACL back in December. And then, of course, second year wide receiver Jordan Addison. What is he going to do as he looks to avoid that sophomore slump? We saw Minnesota draft outside linebacker Dallas Turner. I think he can have a big time impact on this defense. And also, veteran outside linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel, who Minnesota signed away from the Miami Dolphins. You still got veteran strong safety Harrison Smith, one of the best defensive players in the Vikings franchise history, and they've had some great players over the years on that side of the ball. And even at this advanced stage of his career, he continues to go out there and get it done. It's one of those where it was a blow for the Vikings, clearly in losing JJ McCarthy. But I really want to see how this team competes, especially since so many people are indeed writing them off. But in regards to the Bears, in regards to the Lions, and in regards to the Packers, I think all of these teams, all three of them, have the potential to make the postseason. I know that a lot of people are going to have started drinking the Kool-Aid in regards to Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears, and why not? Because the kid can flat out ball, and I think Chicago, because of that, will be in the mix to make the postseason. I think that the Lions things are changing for them right now as far as the expectations, but I think Dan Campbell is strong-willed enough that he's not going to allow his team to go back to what they were before. He's going to go out there and try to will this team, if you will, to try to say, hey, last year was last year. Well, let's build off of that. And the Green Bay Packers, strong front office, strong coaching room led by head coach Matt LaFleur. And again, like I said before, Jordan Love is the future and the present for this team as they look to build off of this, of what they did last year. Like I said, this division got very exciting and very competitive very quickly. Like I said before, I think Detroit, Green Bay, and Chicago all will be in the mix to be postseason bound come January. And I know that there are some people out there that do expect the Lions to repeat as division champions, but I'm going to go with the team that wears the green and gold. I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers to win the NFC North. I think this is going to be a very tight race between these three teams. I think the Bears have improved. I think the Lions have improved. And I think the Packers have improved as well. And I think it's going to be an arguably one of the more competitive leagues in the NFL divisions, rather, excuse me, in the NFL. But nonetheless, I'm going with Green Bay to win the NFC North this season. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. And as I continue to sift through all things the NFL for the upcoming season with my division by division breakdown, Be sure to check out this channel tomorrow as I will be talking all things NFC East. So, folks, as always, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying thank you once again for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.